Welcome to How to Share, a podcast that celebrates the art of teaching, learning, giving, and growing. I'm Weinland, and in this episode, I'm with author Amy Weinland Daughters. Amy's book, Dear Dana, is a beautiful chronicle of a letter writing campaign. When she saw on Facebook that her friend from summer camp 30 years before had a son who was sick and needed prayers, Amy started writing them letters. She explains how this effort blossomed into a project to write each one of her 580 Facebook friends a letter. We talk about the level of effort involved in writing that many letters and how it was transformative for her. Amy shares some of the research around the benefits of writing, and we talk about the insights of what she learned about the benefits and limitations of social media in the process of her project. One of my favorite ahas is that we can use social media as a jumping off point for real relationships, because we lose the richness if there's no investment in our relationships. We talk about God whispers and how listening to them can help us participate in making this world a better place. Amy's perspective is so real and inspirational that I know it'll leave you feeling motivated. This is an incredible episode with a powerful story and loads of magic. I know you'll love it. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Win.
So good to see you, because I was captivated by your book, Dear Dana. You encapsulate so much wisdom about friendship and social media and our willingness and our ability to be there for other people in your amazing endeavor and story. It's just so good.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, what a compliment. And thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, with my pleasure. So you started writing letters to all of your Facebook friends, your 580, after your Facebook friend, Dana, suffered a tragic loss and you realized you didn't have her address. And you started questioning all the things we know and don't know about our friends online. Can you tell us the story?
Absolutely. I mean, and I like to tell the story that I didn't mean to go on this journey I went on that absolutely changed my life, but I was just minding my own business. Like this was the most,
Right.
and I think that's what part of the reason it packed so much punch is because it was so not intentional. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was minding my own business. I got on Facebook. And I'd always remembered my friend Dana from camp, from
Mm-hmm.
summer camp. We probably spent 6 weeks together. We were both
Mm-hmm.
loud and thought we were funny. So I'm sure that we pinged off each
Right.
other. But we literally went from 1986 to 2014 without speaking a word, not exchanging a
Mm-hmm.
word, not being connected in any way. And
Mm-hmm.
so one day I get on Facebook, her name popped back in my head, and I was like, oh, Dana, I'll type it in. I typed it in. There she was. Since it didn't require me to do anything, I friend requested her. And since it didn't require her to do anything, I guess she remembered who I was and she accepted my friendship request. And so that led to what do we do when we get a new friend? I just look through her life and
Right.
like, oh, what happened to Dana? Well, she had a bunch of kids. She overachieved. She had 5 kids and 4 girls, 1 boy. The youngest was the boy. His name was Parker. And right away I found out Parker had cancer and he was
Yeah.
at the St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis. So that meant it was serious. And I was like, oh no. So as a fellow human being, as a mom, as all those things, I was like, oh no, worst case scenario. So that resonates with you right away when you hear a story
Mm-hmm.
like that. I
Mm-hmm.
did feel myself overfeeling a little bit because I knew I didn't know them. But she asked for prayers. That was kind of what is my thing. So I prayed. But then I was just in the background. I didn't hit like. I didn't comment on anything because that seemed disingenuous. Here was this
Mm-hmm.
girl,
Mm-hmm.
living all the rest of our worst nightmare. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to say anything. So I do follow along with the story though. And I do pray. And so I watched as he went into remission. So I felt some relief that didn't really fit the circumstances, but again, as a human being. And then
Mm-hmm.
months pass by, and then the cancer comes back, and he goes back to Memphis. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is awful,
Mm-hmm.
And so she posted about it, this long post about they're going back to Memphis, and somehow she was grateful for all the people that were going to support her there. And so I sit down at my desk the next day, and I did not pre-plan any of this. And it was like
Mhm.
a lightning bolt hit me in the head. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start writing Dana and her son Parker little supportive notes, handwritten notes, and I'm going to mail them to the Ronald McDonald
Mhm.
House in Memphis. And I hadn't written anyone a note in 25 years. You know, I
Mhm.
was living the same life the rest of us were. And I
Mhm.
had still had no contact with this woman. Her son didn't
Right.
know who I was. And so I do it because I felt like this was the thing I was going to do. Like I felt so pulled to do it. And
Mhm.
so I start writing. I write them little notes like, I'm praying for you, you know, keep fighting. The notes become a little longer because I don't know what to say. And I do this for 10 to 14 weeks. And the whole time I think I'm crazy. Like, this is nuts. You're nuts.
Mhm.
So, and so I don't hear back from her, nor do I expect to, because they're fighting, you know.
Mhm.
But I can tell on Facebook, because that was the only connection I had, that things maybe weren't going well. And then she stops posting, and then there's a post one Sunday
Mhm.
morning. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, Parker's gone home to be with God. He's passed away. He's 15 years old. There's no good words for this. Had nothing to do with
Mhm.
me, but I felt, you know, not devastated, but I felt absolutely heartbroken for this family. And so I'm like, what do I do next? It had nothing to do with me. I sent a condolence card to the Ronald McDonald House, and I'm like, well, I can't just not write her again. Like, you know, you
Mhm.
can't just write 14 notes and then not say anything again
Right.
and go into. And so, like, what do I do? I was like, I don't know what her address is. I can't ask her for it. I'm like, well, I heard her husband's an attorney, so I looked up his law office address and I
Mm.
just started sending letters there. And
Right.
that's crazy, and I know it. I mean, like, totally.
Well, yeah, but it's also very resourceful.
Yeah, yeah. And so, in the whole time I'm doing it, when I'm thinking this is not rational, like she's just lost her son, and
Mhm.
you're writing your letters, but the letters become longer because I don't know what to say, and you can only say I'm sorry so many times,
Mhm.
and I, you know, and so I just start writing longer. I look at my life from the outside in, and eventually, about 4 or 5 months into this, I get this 10-page letter from this woman.
Mm.
And I'm shocked, just in awe. And
Mhm.
she shares a little bit about her grief. She talks about her family. She says stuff I never could have known on social media. And
Mhm.
at the end, she says something very telling. She's like, you know, I didn't mean to say any of that, but I feel better from saying it.
Yeah.
And so this kicks off 2 years of me and Dana writing each other
Mhm.
letters. We don't
Mhm.
text. We
Mhm.
don't even exchange phone numbers. We don't email.
Yeah.
We see each other on Facebook, but we don't really like say anything.
Yeah.
But we're having this regular exchange. And since she can't, like, I don't know if she's even reading the letters. I never knew
Yeah.
if she was reading them. She doesn't know what I'm reading. So you can say whatever you want to. Don't feel compelled to
Right.
respond to anything specifically unless you have something to say. There's no pressure, and we just shared, like, we shared very deeply. We ended up
Yeah.
trusting each other and saying stuff like, oh, I know I can say this to you,
Yeah.
stranger at the other mailbox, because I trust you. And the best part was, I didn't know how she voted. I didn't know what she believed specifically. She asked for
Yeah.
prayers, so I knew she believed in God, but I didn't know if she was a Methodist or she was,
Right.
I didn't care. And I
Right.
didn't care how she stood on any issue. I just knew I cared about her because
Yeah.
not only did she lose her son, but now she was my friend in
Yeah.
writing. And so
And
this was, go
what's
ahead.
great about the book is that we kind of see this. I mean, you put this together. I mean, you're living this and telling us the story is beautiful. But you know, some of the words that she sent back to you was that I loved from the books is your writing talents kept us engaged till the last word. It's hard for me to believe that someone I haven't seen in over 25 years would care so much. We have been surrounded by love, but there are many in our inner circle who have moved on, which I understand. But because before that, that was me. Yet you still make the effort. Wow. Thank you seems so inadequate.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I mean, that still makes me want to cry, you know,
Hmm.
because
Me too.
I thought I was, and I literally thought, and I think this is so relatable. I thought the whole time I was shooting off these letters that there is no way that could mean anything in light of what these people had lost. You know,
Hmm.
the four daughters, the husband, and her. Like, I am just crazily writing these letters, telling myself the whole time, and she would say stuff like that, and I was so amazed. I was
Hmm.
just so overwhelmed. And it's such a testament, not to me, but a testament to how we're never, no one's going to have the right
Right.
words in that
Right.
circumstance. But just the act of showing up in some way,
Hmm.
you know, and not forgetting, not just saying okay, and really not knowing what to say and feeling awkward doing it is all natural responses, but showing up anyway. And I think that was all God, that's what it was to
Mm-hmm.
me. Now people can frame that however they want to frame it. But I
Right.
just kept showing up because I felt so compelled to do it. But then when she started sharing, how was I not going to show up then? That's just a
Yeah.
human thing. But
Right.
that experience was so profound when she would say stuff like that to me and when I would share with her and just the relationship that I sat back after about, I don't know how long we've been writing, 8 months, I'm gonna guess. And I was like, if this could happen from the one random girl, the
Mm-hmm.
one random camp girl who I knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing about, who now I consider one of my closest friends in writing,
Mm-hmm.
what about these other hundreds of people that I supposedly am friends with? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? And this was just all world bananagrams. I mean, this is like someone gone rogue
Right.
in their lives. And I'm like, but wait a second, what if I write everyone a letter? So I
Right.
put everybody's name into an Excel spreadsheet. I printed them off. I shoved them in a box. I
Yeah.
bought stationery. I got a journal. And I sat down to write letter number one. I pull a
Your
name out.
scientific method. I love it.
Oh, yeah, I had
Yeah.
rules.
And you
I
had
had,
rules, 2 pages, right?
right, we're on the stationery. But I really thought in my heart of hearts that I was going to get to like letter 30. And that would have been a really great thing that I
Mm-hmm.
had done. But when
Right.
I got to letter 30, I was like, wait a second. This is going to be the most important thing I ever do in my life. And I
Yeah.
didn't really know why, but
Right.
I had a feeling that this was going to change everything. And it
Yeah.
did. And it took me 18 months. And I wrote everyone a letter. And I had no idea the power a letter in 2020 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever year could have. And
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea the amount of, just the amount of perspective it was going to give me, how it was going to change my
Mm-hmm.
heart and just transform my entire life by writing these little letters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much that's transformative here. Just your realization, and we feel as we read the book how hard it is to write 580 letters. I mean, it it's a non-trivial effort. I mean, you sat and you grew calluses. I mean, but you also, we feel the awkwardness that comes from like writing somebody like, I haven't seen you in X
Yeah.
number 30 years, whatever. But you also have all these great, fascinating realizations about social media, about being connected, but not being connected, and all the things we assume about each other, and um, how many people we could really be there for. So, in preparation for this interview, I stalked you on Facebook. So I know you still use it. Has it changed how you do?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I have more friends now than I had then. I've
Hmm.
added quite a few friends, but I really thought when I wrote letter 580 that I would get off of Facebook. But
Hmm.
after that I couldn't because I had made this individual connection with each of these people, this very
Right.
tactile,
Hmm.
personal, you know, connection. So especially the original 580 that I wrote the letters to, I would never not want to be connected to them in
Yeah.
some way,
Yeah.
because it turned these electronic beings into real people
Right.
on a bunch of different important levels. But as it turns out, I absolutely look at Facebook completely different because
Yeah.
now I look at it as one, a jump off point for real relationship.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would not be telling the story without Facebook. So we can
Hmm.
say bad things about social
Right.
media and all of that would probably be true. But it
Right.
is an absolute jump off point for real relationship. The other thing I
Hmm.
learned was, here's this list, and this is so relatable, of hundreds of people that
Hmm.
I either knew for 5 minutes or 5 years
Yeah.
that I danced with at some girl's wedding or that I lived next door to for 15 years,
Hmm.
but each of these people somehow fit into my relationship diagram. Like they
Hmm.
all showed
Hmm.
up for a reason. They're
Right.
all living beautiful, messed up lives that are just as real as mine. And they're
Right.
all valuable in a way to me personally. So, one, there's so much hope in that and so much gratitude in
Hmm.
that. But why would I disconnect myself from somebody like that? Because this trivial thing called Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram allows me to remain connected to these real
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you write about sort of all those connections. From page 278, we all have a relationship graph with circles representing our people and then lines connecting them with us and others. Only by viewing the chart from above can we begin to see how many amazing links exist, how we are abound in meaningful ways to so many people. And that's such a, you just, just underscored that point. It's just beautiful to think about that.
Right. And and the way I came to and again, I didn't mean to do anything magical. I wasn't intending to do anything at all. I just was going to
Yeah.
write these letters because of Dana. And I felt like that was just the thing to do. But in sitting down to write the letters, I had to decide what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And the reason that I got that perspective on the relationship
Hmm.
graph or whatever I
Hmm.
called it was because I was forced, because I had to write something, to look at each of the people individually.
Yeah.
And in trying to find something to say, because that's all I was doing. I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, let me say something meaningful to you, friend. I was
Right.
like, so I went and looked at everyone's profile. And that was probably the most gratifying part of the whole
Hmm.
process is I was forced to sit down and you think about what that would look like for you to look at each of these 580
Hmm.
people as individuals. And I'm like, I had assumed so many things about them that were wrong, not because I'm a bad person, but because we don't do that with
Right.
Facebook friends. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, she went to Harvard. Wait, he is a airline pilot. Wait, she's a foster mom. Wait,
Yeah.
so that was the first part of it. And the second part was figuring out what these people meant to me,
Hmm.
that people had suffered a loss, people had had an illness.
Hmm.
People needed to be congratulated. And then on top of all that, I was connected for a reason. And I had so many things to say, like, thank you for
Hmm.
being there when my mom passed away, or, you know, there were so many things I had to say, and it was so full of goodness. I just had no idea because I'd never looked at them individually. And
And
then I
yeah.
saw the graph come together.
Yeah. Well, there was a response, I think from recipient number 66. You have people numbered in your book, which is it's a to my math brain a really good way to keep track of things. Um, he responded, God has been reminding me to slow down, not because Facebook is bad or useless, but because we are connected without ever needing to invest.
That's it. That was a beautiful line. And that's the
Yeah.
thing about the book. Those people's their words are every bit as powerful as mine. It's almost an anthology of a
Hmm.
Facebook friend group is what it is. Yeah,
Hmm.
but that
Yeah.
idea, that's one of my favorite parts of the book though, because we
Yeah.
don't when we make it, it's back to my story of Dana and I, we didn't have to do anything, so it was easiest to say yes to the friendship request.
Hmm.
But 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 when you don't invest in someone
Hmm.
else's life, when you don't sacrifice something, when you don't risk
Yeah.
something, then it's
Right.
not a real relationship. And that's the thing I didn't understand about letter writing or note writing
Right.
is that people are going to get that you had to do something. You sacrificed effort,
Yep.
you sacrificed time, you sacrificed your hand being sore, you sacrificed a
Yeah.
stamp, and then you sacrificed driving across town and trying to find a mailbox to
Yeah.
drop it into. And I call it the magical moment at the mailbox. When
Yeah.
people hold that letter in their hand, regardless of what it says,
Yeah.
that's just next level. They're going to be like, oh my God, this is how much I matter
Hmm.
to another person. They're going to connect the dots and it's
Hmm.
going to change their heart. And I didn't
Right.
know that until I saw it happen 600 times.
Right. Right. Well, and you have so much to say about the goodness of letter writing. Um, I think National Letter Writing Day is coming up. Is that right? Maybe
Right.
December 7th or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah,
Um, but you say something like the receiving a letter is a wonderful emotional experience, and you just described that well. Writing one provides a therapeutic release that is difficult to describe in words.
right. And there's as I spoke about this, there's science behind that. Like
Yeah.
that's just not feelings. The
Hmm.
Journal of Psychology and Psychiatry has shown for people who handwrite letters or keep a handwritten journal, but
Hmm.
just the act of writing stuff
Hmm.
down,
Hmm.
that there's a 20% increase in emotional clarity, and there's a 20% decrease in stress
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
by the simple fact. And I think the thing is, we assume that if you reach out to me when and say, Amy, I appreciate your friendship, I'm
Hmm.
sorry for what you've gone through, or congratulations, that's going to be about making me feel good. But the plot twist of this whole little story is
Hmm.
that the person who walks away being the most changed from participating in this kind of process
Right.
is the person doing the writing.
Mm.
Because the person who's the most changed from all of this, is me,
Hmm.
100%. The other thing is, because I'm a writer, um, And because we use the word letter, it makes the entire act of doing it seem like there's hurdles to it that are not there. There are hurdles, but it's you don't have to be a writer, and it does
Mm-hmm.
not have to be a letter to have this impact. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you all you need is the cost of a postage stamp and a human heart, and you
Mm-hmm.
absolutely don't need to be a writer, and you don't need to do it 600 times to
Right.
have this power. And it turns out it was in our little human toolkits all along, and we just didn't know about it. And
Yeah.
I get to be the girl who gets to remind people
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Well, you get to be the girl because you listen to the God Whisper, and there's so many God Whispers in this book, and bigger than me moments, the timing, the inspiration, and I'll share one from yesterday. I was preparing for this conversation with you, and I get my mail, and there's something from St. Jude's, which
Oh my
was
gosh.
key to your story, key to Dana's story, and I was like, you know amazing. So we'll just chart that down as another amazing moment. But you're right. The key is not to stop listening to the little voices in our heads, to continue to press on boldly in those ways that feel completely right, regardless of lack of feedback. Maybe changing the world is all about not expecting to, but never, ever giving up on trying to.
Right.
So
Yeah.
good. And does
Yeah.
that
And
continue after that project for you?
right. And yes, it has. And in one way, I thought again that when I stopped writing letters, that would be it for me. Because I
Hmm.
was done writing letters, and the book's very clear about that.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
finished. And but
yeah.
but I I still every morning I get up and write someone a card, a note. And I do it one, yes, I'm honoring the story that I was allowed to
Yeah.
live, the best version of me. Two, it just spreads so much hope. It's a reminder
Hmm.
to me every day that we can't do it. And three, it's almost it's like adrenaline for me.
Hmm.
I believe in it so strongly that if I'm not, it's the one great thing I can do. So I don't
Yeah.
think I'll ever stop. But I also see it in other parts of my life because I think the bigger story with Dear Dana in the letter writing. I mean, the meat of the story is absolutely note writing,
Hmm.
and that's what I want to talk about for the rest of my life. Like
Yeah.
selling books, that's great, but what I
Hmm.
want to do is talk about this message. But
Right.
but the other part of the story I think that's compelling is that if we all just believed in our own stuff for 5 minutes, like
Hmm.
that one little voice in our head that
Hmm.
tells us to do something that we consider crazy,
Hmm.
and if we would just step forward just long enough in little
Hmm.
increments to go forward. And that's exactly what I did,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know, that maybe we change the world and not even know.
Right.
And if we would just support each other, because it's not a blueprint, we all have some idea in our
Hmm.
head. If we could all just make ourselves do it, then
Hmm.
what happens?
Right. Right. If we could just listen, trust, support. I mean, there's so much. Something else that you wrote. Um, it was insanity. I was reading Dana's Facebook posts, saying
Yeah.
prayers that no one knew anything about except for God, and then responding to her in writing as if it was 1983. This bizarre combination, somehow, some way, was resulting in mind-blowing stuff that was actually happening. And it describes what you just said, just the little increments
Right. Right.
that
And who
add
would,
up.
right. And who would ever known the
Hmm.
letters, the impact those letters were having on her and her family.
Yeah.
There were so many stories, and they're chronicled in the book about people needing a letter, people
Hmm.
needing someone out to reach out to them. I'm pulling names like little slips of
Hmm.
paper out of a box,
Hmm.
and back to my opinion, it was God the whole
Yeah.
way. Using those moments. But the important thing is, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Right.
I'm not some inspired. And I love one of my favorite lines in the book is I was not some girl in a white dress twirling around a field of wheat asking God what I was supposed to be doing. I was just
Right.
another
You
skinny
were
hot
busy.
girl
Right.
trying to stay married and raise my kids.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
all. And the thing is, we can be doing something,
Yeah.
without, we just don't know the
Hmm.
impact. And the thing is to encourage each other not to stop. I had a best friend at the time. Her name was Mary, and I lived in Ohio, and she was my best friend. And we would meet at Panera like every 2 weeks. And I'd be like, Mary Barr, I am done writing these letters. And she's like, She's like, you're not going to stop. She's like, duh. She goes, you can't stop. Don't you realize you can't stop? And so the support role is just as important as the
Hmm.
person doing whatever it is that's being done, you
Right.
know?
Right. All this conversation is reminding me that I once heard this little tidbit that Princess Diana spent every Wednesday night writing letters. And, it's just a little tidbit that I don't know why it has stuck with me for all these years, maybe so that I could bring it up in this particular conversation. But, the power of setting aside that time to write
Right.
the letters, right?
Right. Right. And it will, I mean, that's the thing. It will, in my experience. And now I went from telling this inspirational story to
Yeah.
writing a book about it to doing podcasts. Now I speak to businesses about it. I speak to people I never thought
Yeah.
because as it turns out, any arena where there's two human beings with some
Hmm.
relating to do, this enhances that in a way
Hmm.
that cannot be gauged. And I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
I think the only thing better than this is giving someone $1,000,
Yeah.
and really, and you cannot gauge the amount of goodness this does for
Hmm.
people. And I've seen it happen in so many contexts that I could have never guessed would have
Hmm.
happened. It's
Yeah.
just powerful. And we all have the ability to do this
To
and
do this.
participate in it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it seems to me that you not only gave that gift to yourself, but you also gave Dana a way to write out her feelings. And we know that's so powerful in order to process things. And what seems remarkable to me is that her family saw how helpful that was and commented to you
Oh
about
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, and in several ways, when I went after, I guess 2 years, 2.5 years,
Hmm.
I met Dana in person in
Hmm.
Memphis. Well, I hadn't seen her in 30 something years. We
Yeah.
went to the St. Jude marathon weekend. She invited me and my family,
Yeah.
and her daughter came up to me, her second daughter, and she was like, I don't know what mom has said in those letters, but I know it is a good thing. And I told her, I was like, this whole thing is sheer craziness. And she was like,
Hmm.
it is nuts. She
Hmm.
said, but whatever has happened between the two of y'all has
Hmm.
been better for mom. And the other instance that really touches me is so we had that meeting in Memphis, and I came home to Texas for the holidays, and then I drove over to Louisiana to have lunch with Dana, and it was turned out to be this big lunch that I was honored at. I mean, it was completely overwhelming. All the letters were on the table, but Dana told me that day that her girls had started asking her, "When do you think she's going to stop writing the letters?"
Hmm.
And Dana said, "I hope never."
Yeah. Do the two of you still write?
Yeah, she sent me a picture of the letter she got this week. Yesterday, I have her last letter sitting behind me. We talk almost every day on the phone,
Yeah.
but there's a separate relationship for us in writing that I
Hmm.
think we've
Hmm.
written all this time. We don't write as much as we did at the beginning, but it's almost like we have a separate level of relationship in the
Hmm.
letters that we don't have. I mean, we have a super close, it's like a sister
Hmm.
now relationship. And I tell people all the time, you can look at the story and say, oh, look what you and your family have done for Dana and her family. And absolutely 1,000% they have done more than
Yeah.
we will ever do for them. But that in writing relationship is very sacred space between the two of us.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm smiling about your description of going to Memphis for the the St. Jude uh 5K marathon, right? Because one of your funniest lines that just cracked me up was cardio has never been one of my spiritual gifts.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm on the struggle bus. I'm going at the end of the month. And me and her are going to walk the 10K. And we
Oh,
went from being strangers to
hmm.
everyone knows that whoever wants to walk with us is fine, but me and Dana are going to do the walk together.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
it's if you look at the context of the whole story, that's crazy that we would be, like we'll stay in the same room. I mean, with our
Yeah.
husbands. I mean, it's the whole thing is nuts that we're so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
So
It's wonderful. I mean, the best kind of nuts. So it's been almost 10 years since you started writing the project. And of course, then you've written the book. Has your understanding of what was so transformative about that changed over time?
yeah, and I say this, separating myself from the situation. First of all,
Yeah.
I'm in awe of the fact that there were 600 letters written,
Yeah.
but I continued in talking to people like you and having appearances and having conversations to gain a better understanding of how powerful of a
Mm-hmm.
tool this actually is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought when I wrote that book that I had pretty much wrapped up what was transformative about my experience. But I think
Mm-hmm.
every day I come into contact with someone, or somebody writes me, or I write them, or I
Mm-hmm.
talk to someone, and I understand how powerful this is, especially as we go into the age of AI. I call it emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's what note writing is. I find science behind it. I talk to people. I mean, it is amazing how it
Mm-hmm.
continues to gain traction when I thought it was over 3 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it is now. I think it's my life's calling. This is what I'm supposed to talk about as long as
Right.
people will let me talk about it. And like I said, I speak to groups and work with people that I never thought I would. And to me, it's
Yeah.
all about spreading this message. And the message continues to be honed and broadened
Mm-hmm.
as I work with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of your other lines that I just love, and there's so many, I can't even bring them all in, but maybe, just maybe, we can't comprehend even half of what's really going on all around us. I mean, and
Yeah,
it just
that's
seems like this project tapped into that.
no, it did. And it's back to having those moments where I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was crazily writing these people to this law address in, Lafayette, Louisiana. And
Yeah.
as it turned out, these people are waiting for the letters. And
Yeah.
I had this moment, and this again is not to blow smoke up my own rear end, but
No.
we Dana and I got asked after the book to go on the Kelly Clarkson show, which
Mm-hmm.
as an unknown author,
Mm-hmm.
literally unknown, that's like next world. And it's all
Yeah.
about the power of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but I sat there and they taped it and we didn't get to see it till right before it aired, which is an interesting thing. But we sat
Mm-hmm.
there and I was watching her talk on the Kelly Clarkson show with pictures of Parker behind her. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
otherworldly. And she said, my family and I waited for those letters every week. We couldn't wait for them to come. We would ask, is it here yet? Is it here yet? She said, and I remember hoping my mouth wasn't wide open because I was like, because I was like, wait a second, this actually happened. This
Mm-hmm.
actually happened. Like this occurred. I was that girl in a house in Ohio was sending letters to the girl in Louisiana. And I was like, wait a second, this
Mm-hmm.
actually happened. And it goes back to, I had no idea what was happening. Like that idea that we don't know
Mm-hmm.
half of what's going on
Mm-hmm.
around us. And our life
Yeah.
is just, there's so much hope in that. Things are blowing up and we don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it reminds me of something that you quote from Dana at the end of the book. She was talking about how you guys said goodbye at camp
Right.
years and years.
1986. Yeah.
1986. Okay, thank you. I started thinking about how God must have been laughing hysterically as we hugged and said goodbye. She said, "We were thinking, well, have a nice life because I probably won't ever see you again." While God was chuckling and knowing, if you only knew what I had planned for you two.
Right.
It's
And
just
and who
amazing.
and that was a great we were that was during COVID. We would walk and talk like her in
Hmm.
Louisiana, me and then I
Hmm.
was in Texas then.
Yeah.
And it was such a great perspective on the whole, like who knew
Who
that. And
knew?
Jim, her husband, said,
Hmm.
and this is probably the biggest compliment to this is a compliment to God, not to me, but he
Yeah.
was like, God connected us in because he was a counselor too. I met him the
Hmm.
year before I met Dana. And he said God connected us with her so in our darkest hour she would be with us.
Mm. It's
I mean, you
amazing.
can't even,
Yeah.
I mean, how can you even comment on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Well, and I was telling you before the show that, recently I opened Facebook to discover that a precious woman that I connected to a few years ago had died in a motor vehicle. She'd had an accident, a car accident, and then lots of surgeries. And no, I've kind of been following her progress, and and then she died. And I was stunned that, morning to open up and I was in the midst of reading your book when that happened. And I thought, we have so many reminders to take action on all these well wishes that we have. And I love the work that you're doing because it reminds us to do that work.
Right. And I will tell you this, and that's such a, I
Yeah.
mean, it's such a tragic story,
Hmm.
but I think those things that come into our head, and I still feel vulnerable writing to people. I tell
Yeah.
people this all the time. I should get it. Of anyone, the letter writing lady should understand.
Right.
I wrote a guy today who met the same camp. I met Dana. His father passed away last month. And I sat down, literally wrote him, thought, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. Like, you believe in this. It's going to take you 30 seconds. You know it.
Right.
And that's going to make a difference to him to have that tactile thing get delivered to him. But and I will tell you this, it is never, ever too late to tell another human being that you care about them, that they matter, that they're valued, that they're appreciated. And it doesn't matter if you do it 3 years after the fact, 30 minutes after the fact. It's never too late. And if it's said us sincerity, and it doesn't have to be 2 pages.
Right.
If it's 2 lines, it will mean something to people, and they will tell you. And here's I've done workshops on this, the Facebook letters. The number one takeaway from people receiving a handwritten note is this: I will save it in a special place for the rest of my life. And we all have that power. And you talk about this world of devices that we're living in, we have the power to reach out across the abyss and remind each other and ourselves of what really matters. And it comes down to the human connection. We're connected to these people living real, beautiful, messy lives for a real, beautiful, messy reason.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Amy, I am so grateful for this conversation. I'm so grateful for you, for all the things that you've done to listen to the inspiration in your life and to pass that on in letters, in books, in podcasts. I'm just grateful.
Well, thank you. I'm just grateful for those are very kind, generous words. I think it's all God. That's my opinion, but I appreciate the opportunity because, like I said, yes, books, I want to sell them, speeches, I want to give them, but to me, this is all about the message, like give this message. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on today and share it with your audience. What a gift.
What a gift. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Our music was written for us by the incredible duo of Jack Canfora and Rob Koenig. For show notes and more great inspiration, see avitiva.com, avitiva.com.